Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and we got quite a bit of stuff to talk about today. We do have some topics for TikTok. Once that gets rolling, we'll let people in. We'll have we'll be answering some questions and some comments in TikTok and YouTube and all that good stuff, Twitter, Twitch, etc. Do want to go over some of the big news today first before we jump into the topics, but so everybody's aware that is listening to this via YouTube or in the future on audio and podcast, whatever the topics for discussion after we cover the main headlines of today. Well, headlines that I think are important. The topics are debt forgiveness for all, live with your parents forever, Christianity is the way forward, and of course, the Cash App, $Luis Acevedo 27. So that's LUISACEVEDO 27 to support MOT Media and all that we do. So, first thing that I really want to touch on is what's going on in the HVAC world. So, HVAC is what cools your home and heats your home. And there are extreme shortages everywhere, from the Freon to the condensers. Those who are unaware of the Freon, what Freon is, it's basically the thing that cools. It's the liquid that turns into gas that cools your house, cools your car, etc. Well, specifically in home HVAC systems, the supply chain is such where the Freon isn't hard. It's very hard to get because of the supply chain breakdown, which is what's causing the prices to go up. Not so much the money printing. It has to do with supply chains collapsing. And then the condenser, it basically is the thing that releases the hot air. It's on your outside HVAC unit, and that is also in short supply. And so these HVAC technicians and HVAC companies are having extended wait times to complete their jobs because of supply chain issues. Additionally, the prices are increasing because, well, there's so much demand, but there's so little supply. And this is what people are feeling. They're not being affected so much by the money printing as they think. It's more so a reliance on a global supply chain that is making it extremely difficult to get these items here in our nation, as well as other nations. And the other issue that we're experiencing is a labor shortage, specifically in trade skills like HVAC. So not only are they having longer waiting times to complete jobs, but they're also having longer times for people to come out to the homes to diagnose due to a labor shortage. And this is something that's being felt across industries. But this is a good article to highlight because it illustrates perfectly that we are experiencing supply chain breakdowns. This is the big issue of our day, supply chain breakdowns. The media is distracting you with inflation. They are telling you inflation is the problem. Don't get me wrong. Printing a bunch of money out of thin air is never a good thing. But the real problem that we're facing is a reliance on a global supply chain. We have now realized that free trade is nonsense, that globalism doesn't work the way that it was portrayed, and you don't really need it, right? So we're going to be seeing, in my opinion, a renaissance of manufacturing in the United States and in the West. Probably will have a lot to do with 3D printing. I've mentioned this numerous times before in the streams, that we will probably witness a decentralization of manufacturing throughout the country and maybe a lot of the Western world via 3D printing. But this is a huge issue, and this is the reason why your prices are going up. It's because of supply chains. And then there are so much abundance of certain things where big box retailers are having to give them significant discounts and then give you potentially full refunds to keep the item, even if you don't want the item. Now, there's also a PC shortage, or there's a PC shortage because of the semiconductors, which is why you've seen prices go up in a lot of electronics as well, and why it's hard to get the PS5. It has nothing to do, somewhat to do with the money printing, why prices are going up, but more so to do with the supply chain collapsing. And this is huge. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And as well as just a quick reminder, we covered this yesterday, but for those who did not hear it, there are going to be potential strikes in our trains, and they ship, like 1.4 billions of raw materials and certain goods across the country. And the reason there may be a strike is because of no wage increases, negotiations between the union. And we already see this strike in the UK taking place, and it's probably going to come here to the United States. Another thing to note is there have been a string of explosions at fossil fuel plants, whether they be liquid natural gas or oil plants and pipelines. There have been a bunch of them, actually. I can't recall the total amount, but it's something that's not being reported on very well. So this is going to have a huge effect on oil supplies for us and the rest of the Western world, potentially. Cement shortage, diesel oil shortage. Didn't know about the cement shortage, but yes, the shortages of everything is what is really causing the prices of items to go up. And this is why it makes sense that the dollar is getting stronger, is because people are unable to buy so many of the things that they would have purchased before. There's less things to purchase because of the supply chain breakdown. And so we are then experiencing deflation as a part of that. And also people have taken out a bunch of corporate bonds, and, they're going to want their money in dollars. And, there's a bunch of other things to go into, but that's something important to note. And then the other interesting thing to note before we jump into the topics for today, two more things, actually. First thing is the former senior U.S. official John Bolton admits to planning attempted foreign coups. Not coups, coups. So in an interview recently on CNN, he said that he had helped plan coups, coup d'etats. Not here, but in other places he specified. So this is something a lot of us have understood and knew for a long time, and many people were blinded to this fact or just ignored it completely. And this is something that the United States has been doing for quite some time. Arguably, it's one of the main reasons the CIA was created, is to implement shadow governments across the world. And that's essentially what we have with the United States. And so now it's coming out in the open. This is a really cool thing that we are now figuring this out. Well, a lot of us have already known this, but it's cool because more people are now becoming initiated to the truther community, if you will. They're having no choice but to accept the fact that these once, regarded conspiracy theories are not that, and they are realities. They're conspiracy realities. So that's very fascinating news. And then the other thing that I want to touch on, and then we'll jump into the topics here. NATO and Europol concerned weapons sent to Ukraine being smuggled to criminal gangs. This is something that we covered before anybody else. I haven't heard anybody else talk about this. And we're one of the first. This isn't true. That isn't true, actually. There's one YouTuber who I heard talk about this. But anyway, aside from that, I haven't heard anybody talk about the fact that Ukraine is, they can't track the weapons and where they're going. And we're spending billions of dollars on these weapons, and we're just, not able to track them. So we're giving them weapons for nothing, and who knows what they are, where they're going exactly. So we'll read a little bit of this article. It says a Tuesday report by the Financial Times revealed, European nations are concerned weapons being sent into Ukraine are getting smuggled into the hands of dangerous criminal gangs. The outlet reported a number of NATO member states are discussing with Kiev some form of tracking system or detailed inventory list for weapons supplied to Ukraine. All of these weapons land in southern Poland, get shipped to the border, and then are just divided up into vehicles to cross, trucks, vans, sometimes private vehicles, a source from the Financial Times. And from that moment, we go blank on their location. We have no idea where they're going. And this is a tweet from Brussels Media Hub stating, we will continue to work with our allies and partners across the globe to respond to today's threats and challenges, particularly to Russia, unprovoked and unjust war in Ukraine. Why should we live with your parents when you are an adult? Yeah, we'll get into that. So that is what's going on in the world today. Some big things that people should be aware of, and also the Democrats want the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, I believe, is what it translates over to. And they want them to give like Ukraine $650 billion. So, just pouring money into Ukraine like crazy for probably some reason that we'll find out in the near future. But that's what's going on in the world today. There's probably a lot of other things that I did not cover, but those are the things that I think people should be aware of as of right now. You can, check out some other things too. I mean, there's also tensions building up with China in the U.S. and the Southeast China Sea, because the U.S. is saying if China does anything to provoke the Philippines, the U.S., the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, I believe is his name, said that, we would have to respond. But so let's go into all of these topics here. So debt forgiveness for all. Yes. So yes, I mean everything for debt. Forgive it all, because this is how civilizations have done it all through antiquity up until recent times, because all you then have is a parasitic class that evolves from interest rates, being sucked out by the borrower. So there should be a time frame in which they no longer collect interest from their debt. We got a boomer in here, Tim Baker 11. You bought it, pay for it. Yeah, well, usury, if any Christian is in here and you want to pull out your Bible, you'll find out that usury should not be used on your own fellow countrymen, but it's okay to be used on foreigners. However, even those foreigners would have a deadline in which they would have what is called the Jubilee. The Jubilee. The only thing that should be taken away is the interest. No, it should all be forgiven, because this will have a healthy effect on the economy. And it's just the right thing to do. Nobody should be in debt forever. It is insane, especially when it's passed down from generation to generation. It is the moral thing to do as a human being, to forgive people their debts after X amount of times. As the Bible says, probably in 7 years or so, I believe is what the Jubilee is. Wrong. Boomer answer. Mountain man, whatever you borrowed the money with your understanding, you will pay it back. It will cause 29% inflation. Don't borrow money. Then yeah, I don't borrow money, and I don't encourage people to borrow money, especially when it's laced with interest. Where does all the money come from to pay all of this debt off? Very easy, guys. Like, especially when it comes to student debt, you understand that these huge universities like Harvard, Stanford, have billions of dollars and endowments that could go towards it. And also the government is giving out these loans. So your tax dollars are paying for kids to go to school right now, adults, I should say, to go to school right now, get indebted. So the government should then be responsible for paying them off in part. I think it would be the justified thing to do. They will never get money when people need the help. That shouldn't happen either. Okay, I mean, you guys are giving no good arguments. Let's see. Where does we just print money out of thin air. And so, you need debt to print the money, right? But it'll definitely help the economy in the long run. People would have more disposable income. People will be able to save. People will probably be able to buy a house. It'd be a lot better. And then you would get rid of a parasitic entity within the economy, which is just living off of interest. Got somebody who wants to come in here. We'll let them in, and then we'll go from there. What's going on?
I'm doing well. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well too. Glad to hear that.
That's good. So, I'm interested in your thoughts on why you think we should do debt forgiveness for all. What's your rationale on that?
Yeah, it's very simple. Every civilized nation, society rather, has had a jubilee, as it's called, because it is not only the moral thing to do, but it also helps eliminate any parasitic entities thriving off of the economy. Additionally, it will promote a healthier economy.
You say, isn't it kind of parasitic to expect some kind of forgiveness for the debts that you agreed to, though?
No, that's not. That's just like, especially when you're making interest from it. If you have some sort of interest that's attached to it, which is then called usury, you should definitely have a time of forgiveness. This is just how it would just help a society greatly. I mean, it would put more money in the pockets of individuals, and it would then make people think twice before giving out a loan.
I don't think. No, I know usury isn't just simple interest rates. Usury is the way usury is meant is like abusive payback terms. You know what I mean? Like when you hear of like there are some bad terms. When you hear someone say 30% or above that is crazy. That's usury. But not all loans are. I think usury should be used for loans that are like outrageous. You know what I mean? And not every loan with interest should be considered usury. You know what I'm saying?
But it is by definition. If the loan has interest attached to it, it is then usury.
I mean, maybe there is some kind of definition for it, but the traditional sense of usury, what we understand it as usury is an unfair percentage put onto it, not just any percent. So if I give you $100 and I say, pay back this loan with 1% interest on
that's
it, you
usury.
Can't say that's usury.
It is
like
by
you
definition.
Can say, oh, it's usury, but it's not really usury. Like it's not. The terms are not unfair on that.
But it doesn't have to be unfair. Usury is simply having interest attached to the debt. It could be 0.1%.
In the modern lingo, usury is an unfair way of getting back money.
It doesn't matter what the modern lingo is.
It goes down to religious definitions to it. If you want to get to the nitty gritty of it, and honestly, some really bad opinions on that, that we don't have to get into, but you know what I'm saying with that kind of stuff. But
yep.
But what I'm saying is, I think I just have a hard time grasping the idea of why should we allow people who entered into contracts out of these contracts? For what reason do we have to let people out of these contracts?
Well, there's every civilized country aside from the United States, or I can't say the United States, up until modern time, has had a debt forgiveness program. It's called the Jubilee. So there's historical context for it. It helps a healthy society. It helps the society grow. And then once again, it eliminates a parasitic entity. I don't understand what's so hard about capturing this thought. And additionally, you have the fact that more money is going to be in the pockets of the individual who then had the debt. Nobody should be in debt forever. That's immoral to me. That's wrong. Especially for one thing. Now, if you keep acquiring loans and then you stack debt on top of debt year after year, and then increasing the amount of time until you receive the Jubilee for each debt, if you're following me, well, that's a different story. But nobody should ever have to be in student loan debt forever, especially when it comes to the fact that you've been manipulated to go to college. Your grandparents have been brainwashed to tell you to go to college. Your parents have been brainwashed to tell you to go to college. Additionally, the government is funding most of the college. Most of your loans to go to college are federal tax dollars as it is. Additionally, you have these huge universities like Harvard and Yale that have these endowment sizes worth billions of dollars. And so, which the endowments are basically money, which are
student debts from. We're not talking about student debts from Yale or Harvard, are we? I mean,
it doesn't. Yes, you are.
Having,
yes, it is part of it. It's all debt. So you mean to tell me that if you go to Harvard, you have no debt? That's a ludicrous thought. Of course, people who go to Harvard and Yale have debt.
But you're not worried about it because you're going to find a job, guaranteed. Almost guaranteed.
Maybe, especially nowadays where their credibility is going down the drain for anybody who has sense. And so, regardless, a lot of children are being brainwashed into universities. And then mortgage rates are insane, mostly because of the boomers who are like, yo, I got this house 40 years ago, 20 years ago, and now it's worth 6 times as much as it was before. So you, kid, you have to go work, 120 hours to get the mortgage, to be able to get mortgage and then never be able to get out of your mortgage. It's insane. So the economy, the way it's set up with the debt, is it just perpetuates poverty.
I think your analogy is like this. So you and I agree that I'm going to sell you my car for $10,000, and then you buy my car, and you have my car, and then you say, well, look at the economy right now, you know, like, oh, goodness gracious. Like, I know I paid you $5,000, but I mean, look, I was promised more. I was told that this car was reliable. I was told that this car would take me far. I was told that the economy would hold up forever. Now I don't want to pay you the $5,000 that I owe you. Like, what is the difference between that and going to a university and telling them I'm going to pay you X amount to go to university, and now the economy is taking a slump, and I'm not making as much as I should? Like, what's the difference? It's a contract, no? Like, shouldn't you own up to your contracts?
Yeah, and so if you had a better system, which is what I'm promoting, if you introduce a jubilee to the economy, you would have a higher honor system, right? Because you would only give out loans to people who would honestly pay you and try to pay it off before the contract was up. But let's say they fall into hardship, right? Which happens in life. They fall into hardship. And then you have this contract that says, you know what? In 10 years, if you haven't paid this off, we erase the debt. It is what it is. And so you're going to be more stingy as to who you lend money to. That's one. That's huge. And then the person who's paying the debt feels like, you know, they really should pay the debt out of an honor system as opposed to this, well, I have to pay for it or else it's going to be taken away. So you introduce more honor into the society by doing that. And so if that person falls into hardship over that 10-year period where they lose their job, it happens, right? They lose their job. They become disabled. A family member's in hospital for, you know, terminal conditions, and they have to reallocate funds to support their lifestyle in a different way because of some travesty. Well, then that, you know, that debt, if it's lifted after 10 years, it's going to have a more beneficial effect, not only mentally, but on an economic level in society as well.
I don't even disagree with you that maybe we should like make future contracts like that. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I do think that maybe some of the terms are unfair, but what I'm saying is nobody put a gun to anyone's head. Nobody said, if you sign this contract, I'm going to kill you. People sign these contracts on their own free will, and now it seems like they're trying to weasel their way out of a sound contract, and I don't hear a good justification for it. Like, I hear what you're saying, like, oh, well, things would be better if we did this or that. That's fine, but that's not what the contract was. Like, you know, like, you have to live up to your word. That's all I'm saying. I don't see any justification to say that the contract should not be obliged. That's my issue with it.
Yeah, well, if that contract is basically it's just parasitic, well, then it does nobody any good. It doesn't help the economy. It doesn't help the individual. Because you allow this predatory behavior in the United States. And for everybody that's saying this is nonsense, look at any Muslim country. Look at any Muslim country. First off, they don't allow usury, which Christians shouldn't allow usury in their nation against their own people. It's against the word of God. Fact. So that should be something that we follow the Muslims in regards of. And jubilees have historical context. They do. They really, really do. They work. It's a historical thing. What we're doing now is ahistorical. This is like new. This is new and predatory.
I don't know if you can call it predatory. People agree to it. You know what I mean?
It is predatory.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
It is predatory. And no, I have zero debt.
Because, okay, look, I'll give you this. There was a pipe dream of the American dream, so to speak, and that you go to college and you'll make money and you'll do this and that or the other. But at the end of the day, people who sign these contracts are adults. You know, like, they could have read the fine print. They could have understood the debt they're taking. what I can't wrap my head around is a justification on, well, the contract's not good for you, so let's just scrap it, because someone's gonna lose money at the end of the day, right? Like no matter what, like
nobody's losing money if you're scrap. So here's the insane thing: if you set up a 10-year deal from now, let's say you have a mortgage on the bank, right? The bank gives you a mortgage on your home, right? And you've had that mortgage now for 10 years. You've paid on it and you've paid interest on it. How in the hell is the bank going to lose money? How in the hell is the bank going to lose money if you say it's forgiven? They didn't. They made money off of your ass. Fact.
Because there's more interest to be made on it. I get
Yeah,
what you're
exactly.
saying.
So it's predatory. They already made money. They already made money. Most people already pay their principal long before they pay off the interest. The interest is what screws them. And so if you just introduce a debt forgiveness, boom. And then also, David, when you said Iran doesn't let their ladies go to college, bully on them, man. They get it. They get it. Iran gets it.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but like your concept of like this is the way to like stop. What was your term? Parasitic.
Yes.
Kind of thing. Like I don't know. Like okay, yeah, the little man wins, but the little man is being parasitic in your world that you're describing.
How is he when he's the one being taken advantage of? He's not. He's the one being taken advantage of. Don't you see that? So if you're paying on a car loan, yeah, and that's because that was his only option. It's not buyer's remorse. It's called, first off, it's the most logical thing to do for the society in order to keep it mentally stable and financially stable. Because then what you have is then you just bury your nation in debt. You just incentivize people to get debt. Because you know why? Because debt is tax-free. If you take out debt, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So the wealthiest people of the wealthiest understand this. And so they take out loans against their assets. And so then you would then have to rearrange the entire financial system, and it would be better for everybody if it was adjusted this way.
Because you can't get rid of student debt in bankruptcy. That's the one thing you can't get rid of in bankruptcy. You know what I mean? Like you can get rid of mortgage loans, you can get rid of car loans, you can get rid of almost everything except for student debt. I get what you're saying, but like you're off the mark just a little bit. Like in that people need to take responsibility for their debts, and they can't just expect a handout over here.
Nobody's giving them a handout. So let's say this. All right, right now, starting today, we implement a jubilee, a nationwide jubilee that will take place every 10 years. So everybody that's owned a mortgage, let's say they have a 30-year mortgage, and now in 10 years, regardless of where they're at with their payments, they will have their debts erased. However, in that 10-year period, if they don't pay what they signed to pay as far as the monthly payments all the way up to that 10-year mark, well, then they can have their asset taken from them, their home, right? The same way that you could now. You could have the bank come over and give you a foreclosure. So you would still have the same consequences. And this would provide a better.
You have no collateral to get student loans, right? Like nobody says like, oh, put up your house to get student loans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, I'm not even talking about student loans. I'm talking about a mortgage. I'm talking about a car loan. I'm talking about credit card loans.
But mortgages and car loans do require like hard collateral, you know, and that's why we're not talking. And it can be disrupted in bankruptcy. Like if you have a mortgage and you get a bankruptcy, the court will say, okay, you don't owe it anymore. But you can't do that with student loans for the same reason why you don't put up collateral for student loans. Like it's like students are taking advantage. They're trying to take advantage on your system here, and it's unfair. And like you think what I'm saying is crazy. You think what I'm saying is nuts because I'm saying it's unfair because it seems unfair to you, and that they're getting the short end of the stick. But like you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? Like they are getting a good deal just because they can't live up to their. And look, I paid my student loans. Like how fair is it to me that these people should get their loans forgiven? I don't understand that.
Yeah, so that's a very boomer argument that you just made. I'm telling you that it will.
It's a weak argument. I'll give you that it's a weak argument, but it is something, and it's not even my first round of defense, and it's something I don't even want to bring up. But it is kind of unfair. Is all I want to say with that,
Yeah. So do you like a debt-based economy? Do you think a debt-based economy is good for America?
I think we have a debt-based
I
economy.
know. Is it good?
It's all about keeping up with the Joneses.
It,
You don't agree with me? You don't think
no, that's not what I'm asking.
Let
me ask the question again. Do you think a debt-based economy is good?
I think a debt-based economy is good when there's money behind it, which right now America has. I mean,
so you think
you can say, well, will we always have that with the recession? I don't know.
So you think it's good that the only way we can print money is through debt? So we need to get more in debt or have somebody else get more in debt in order to make more money?
I mean, it's complicated. This is a very complicated topic, mind you. It's like asking, do you think it's okay to send stimulus checks to people, in times of need, even though that will create more debt? Like it's not simple. It's not like a yes or no. There's several variables to it. It's like, can the economy hold up? Can the economy make up for it? It's a very multi-variable, question.
I will give you that. I will give you that. It is a very complicated question. But a debt-based economy has done no nation any good over the long term. It's unsustainable. You then have a house of cards once your society or your economic system is built upon essentially usury.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, I just don't care for your term of usury, I guess. It's like, I think there are loans, and then there are loans. You know what I mean? Like when my girlfriend had a car loan that was like 25%. I said, babe, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing here? Like that's crazy, because if you look at the math at it, like at the end of the day, she's ending up paying way more in interest than what the car is worth. But this is what people who know money know. There are people who know money and people who don't know money, and that's the problem in this country. It's not about student welfare. It's about people who understand what money is, understand the terms, and people who don't understand the terms are signing these terms, and now they're up to their necks in debt, and they're like, toss me a life preserver, and it's like, you didn't have to choose this lifestyle. That's my only problem with it. Is I think the problem is we need to teach people better economics in this country. Like, understand what you're signing. I think that's maybe the crux of the problem here.
I agree with you as far as we need more financial literacy. This is true. 100%. Many people have no clue how money is made, how they should spend their money, what is a good loan, bad loan, because I think there is a difference between
put money away for for retirement. Like a lot of people have no idea about this stuff, and then they end up 70 years old with no money. And looking for handouts. And I don't want to get political about it, but I'm saying, like, it's an issue, and it's an issue that should be addressed now with education rather than mandates.
Right.
Like that's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, so I mean, I do agree with you on the financial literacy, and I understand where people are coming with the whole idea of contracts and that you should, honor the contracts. I am for an honor system, but once you have a system like ours, which has been corrupted for a very long time, I think that the best way, like if we're going to enter in this quote unquote great reset, why not allow debt forgiveness? If you're already going to have a financial reset.
I guess we're going to have to agree, disagree, but it was nice talking to you.
Yeah.
You were real respectful, and I appreciate it. So you have a good night, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too. No problem, man. All right. So there was other questions in here regarding live with parents forever. Handouts used to be desired, but at this point, wealth distributed is way bad in America. So let's get into that. All right. So people should live with their parents forever. I think it is the most natural thing to do. Debt forgiveness could have been a thing if we didn't give it away to Ukraine. Yeah, I agree with that. It's crazy that people think everyone wants handouts, but our system is corrupt. Yeah, it is corrupt. It's 100% corrupt. 100%. But all systems become corrupt. And I don't think the argument, one of the main arguments is that we will cause hyperinflation or mass amounts of inflation by debt forgiveness. But what if the contrary is true and that people save their money? If you want to have a no ambition in life, I guess that would work for you. Some of the most ambitious people I know share the same view as me on this. Like more than ever, though, one of the worst, trickling down the list, you can't teach good judgment when the government is bankrupt. Yeah, right. And when they do, we should reset them and reorient them to work better. Yeah, so like if you give people a clean slate, I'm willing to bet that more people than not will do the right thing with that clean slate, i.e., no debt. They would say, wow, I can save more money. I can invest more money as opposed to paying a $200-$300 payment every month. I can now put $200-$300 towards an investment into a real asset, which would also help the economy, right? Or they would just be able to improve their living standards if that's what they choose to do. When systems collapse, like coding and computers, computer operating, totally. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that debt forgiveness for all is a good thing. I think it would overall be a good thing. When you have a government as reckless with its spending on the U.S. government, what do you expect its citizens to do? They think it's okay. Yeah, 100%. So now I want to get into why parents and children should live with each other forever, because it's the most natural human thing to do. It's just, it's very, very obvious when you look at quote unquote third world countries or undeveloped countries. This is how they survive. They survive upon with their community. They rely on their community in order to have a fruitful life. And living with your parents, there's nothing wrong with that. There's this Western idea that, if you live with your parents, you live with your siblings until you're 20 or 30, 40, 50, whatever, then you're a loser. You failed in life. When there's actually, that's actually the natural way to live, because your parents are going to get older. Your parents are going to rely on you as they get older. Honestly, never thought of that concept, but that'd be weird for me unless they lived in a guest house. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's how it was created. It is a form of Social Security. The only reason you have Social Security now is because of neighborhoods. The only reason you have welfare from the government is because of neighborhoods. Neighborhoods broke up the extended families. They broke up the nuclear family too. Think about it. You go move into the city, you go move into a neighborhood, you go move into an apartment. Do you live next to your mom? Do you live next to your dad? Do you live next to your sister or brother or uncle or aunt? No, because a lot of people think it isn't cool. And so they go live next to strangers instead. And so now that your neighbors are just strangers essentially to you, where is your social net? Where is your safety net? You don't longer have the safety net. It becomes harder to find. And so then the government becomes the replacement for the family over time. Right now, everybody's equating the government to daddy, which is a really, really good analogy. But it has been replacing the state. It has been replacing the family for a long time. So if you were to design your homes to where you could have multiple generations, this would be a healthier way of life. You would no longer need the nursing homes. I mean, how much nursing home abuse do you see? Quite a bit. And if you did need a nurse in order to help for your elderly, I don't even think it's that deep. Living near parents, okay, but living with them, no try. No, thank you. It is that deep. Nursing home isn't the way. Keep them in their home. Why not move them in with you? Or move them in on your property. If you could, convert your garage into a guest house, make a shed home, make a container home, do something to where, just like your parents took care of you when you couldn't take care of yourself, you should reciprocate that to them. It's the natural human cycle. The Chinese culture, this is how they used to do it. Right now, I guess it's not so much in the cities, but their homes used to have quarters where each, family would live, but then they had this central area where they could gather, and, the women stuck with the women, the men, stuck with the men. They went out to work. Perhaps it works for me for sure. I love that, but a lot of millennials, I think, feel that way. Yeah, and it's because they've been corrupted to think that it's good to move out of your family's home, that, you don't need that. It's not good to need your mom or dad. Don't get me wrong. One should be able to be their own man and woman as they age, but that doesn't mean you can't have a really, really close relationship with your mom and dad and your brother and sister, and even to the point where you're sharing resources. This is a goal of mine with my family, and that is I want us all to share the resources where we all have, maybe 1-2 bank accounts, something along those lines, where we're putting all of our money in there together. And so we are just increasing our resources, increasing our net worth. And then we have some shared venture where we put investments in, things like that. Moving away from your parents is very good and almost necessary for mental health on both sides. Totally disagree. This whole notion of mental health is a modern day phenomenon. It's insane. It was way blossom. I don't know what that word is. Blossom. I don't know. Blouses had multiple stories. Yeah. I think you meant to say houses or something. But yeah, this idea of improving your mental health by moving away from your parents, that's insane, isn't it? To think that in order to improve your mental health, you have to move away from the people who brought you into this world. If anything, they should be the ones that make you the most sane. So you are a Christian? Yes, I am a Christian. It's insane to think that. And if you have that kind of relationship with your parents, that's literally personally seen it in my life of work psychologically. My life of work psychologically. Yeah, and it's because people are the modern world has created problems that don't really exist. And unfortunately, parents have been brainwashed, grandparents have been brainwashed, not because some people have no depth whatsoever. I have personally experienced it as well. Yes, and the issue is that your parents were brainwashed, you were brainwashed, your grandparents were brainwashed. And so it's up to those who have sort of cleansed themselves of the generic brainwashing to revive that lifestyle. Do I support Trump? I wouldn't vote for him again. I voted for him in 2016. I didn't vote for him in 2020. So no, politically, I do not support Trump. I think he's hilarious. I like his rhetoric. I thought he was a good president when he was president. Thought he was a really good president, actually. But there are major things that I disagree with him on, as far as what took place with the cough and sniffles, Operation Warp Speed, etc. So I will never vote for that man again. But yeah, I mean, the Western world here to chat though. I'm all about data. Yeah, I'm all about data too. I like data. I don't get too much into it on the show here because it doesn't do much good when you're talking with a bunch of people who are extremely close-minded and don't really care about any sources you bring. So it's pointless. So we just don't really stick to this. LOL, he definitely was not a good president. LOL. Okay. What, did you really laugh out loud? Did you really laugh out loud when you said that twice, by the way? Did you go, ha ha, he really wasn't a good president. Ha ha ha. Did you do that? If not, then why did you put LOL? It's like the most passive-aggressive thing to do. Yes, I did. Okay, well, if you did and you're not lying, cool. But I have a feeling that you're lying. I can't prove it. Maybe you're being truthful, but I have a feeling that you're lying. I think people that have never traveled 25 miles away from their home and never away from their parents, I just think people that have never traveled away from their home and their parents, and so Christianity has a Cash App. I mean, what does being Christian have to do with not getting paid? Just because you get paid doesn't mean that you can't be a Christian. And nobody is forcing you to pay me anything. It's on your own volition. Why would I lie about something so trivial? I don't know. I don't know if you're a liar. What would Jesus do? Well, he was a carpenter, so I assume he got paid for his carpentry. So I'm not understanding your point here. I just think people have never traveled 25 miles from their home and never away from their parents. What are you trying to say? I actually laughed out loud. Okay, cool. Grift shop. Would Jesus have a Cash App? Maybe. For his carpentry. Literally, some people exist their whole lives without going, which isn't a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with never leaving a 30-mile radius of your home. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There's this, only the wealthy used to do that. You know that? It's a very privileged thing for us to say that. And I don't mean it as some social justice warrior, but it's an extremely privileged thing to say, yo, you can live 30 miles away from your home and then you can go back. It's insane. Like, it never was the thing. Not a liar. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening. Okay. At least this day and age. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's extremely natural to never leave your hometown. It's very natural. Emotional problems exist in people like that. No, they don't. Some of the happiest and healthiest mentally people you'll find are those individuals. If you go to third world countries, they haven't traveled 50 miles away from their home, and they have more mental stability than people in the West do. So that's a nonsense argument. I guess I don't know how to word it, but it definitely does in my line of work. Well, if you're working in psychology, the people that come to you believe they have first off, psychology, I don't really agree with. If you're a psychologist, I don't agree with psychology. I think that anxiety, depression are all things that manifest due to diet and just lack of work. I mean, you can cure depression by working. This is very simple. It's easier to be closed-minded when you live in rural areas, says you, who's probably extremely closed-minded to some of the rural-minded people's ideas. Only talking about the U.S., different culture. Yeah, I'm in the U.S., and the U.S. has a huge mental health problem because of the ideas which you are stating. Move away from your family, and then they get these torn identities. It's literally known even in psychology. Those things are mostly nonsense. None of that shit exists in a world where it has to literally be based in reality. You get rid of all the consumerism, all the materialism, all these ideas of the American culture. I can't say the American culture, but you get rid of all of the garbage. Every third world, where's the suicide rates in third world countries? Where are they? I mean, why is it that the more liberation women get, the more antidepressants they have to take? Why is it that, our society has such a mental health issue, but countries that are much poorer than us and people that are much poorer don't have the same mental health issues? It's because you have nothing better to do with your time. And so you sit and dwell on nonsense. I'm strictly talking about the U.S. Big Pharma here literally is killing. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you think women in Iran have access to mental health? They don't need it because they're based, dog. And they know that their man is the head of the relationship. So they let their man deal with the mental stuff. They get it. Iran gets it on some level. Christians everywhere should get it because our FDA approves. Yes, I totally agree with that. They're too busy trying G to stay alive. Love the Muzz. Yeah, Muslims get it. All these things connect. Yes, I agree. I mentioned there's a huge issue with our diet. I don't have much to talk about. That's one of my biggest issues. I struggle with gluttony for sure. But I try to, eat healthy for the most part, but I do indulge on some snacks. But anyway, yes. So food plays a huge role in it. Pills play a huge role in it. The crazy ideas we promote today, the way we brainwash our children and all this stuff have to do with it. To disvalue the fact that we're becoming a neo-feudalistic country is baffling, though. I don't know that I'm disvaluing it. I don't know what you mean by that exactly. I've made this argument before that we're becoming neo-feudalist. Are you in a relationship? Yes, I am. I have 2 beautiful children, 1 on the way, a beautiful wife. The banks are the best lords. We are going backwards currently. I don't think so. Tell us about your expertise as a man. What do you mean? What do I do? What am I an expert at? I'm trying to perfect. Does your wife wear a hood? A hood? No, she doesn't. He's an alpha dog. Well, thank you for that. No, she doesn't wear a hood. She doesn't have to. I'm a Christian, and so in the Bible, it says that the woman should wear a hood when she prays, wear a veil when she prays. That's it. Do you have daughters? Yes. All of my children are girls. Will they wear their hood? That makes no sense. I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Christian. And Christian women should wear veils in churches when they're praying and they're worshiping. But that's the only time that it's really talked about in Christianity. And I don't really understand the reasons why, but that's what it says. Send me your 15. Boogie Boy forever. I'm going to, no more of that. That I want to block you, but I'll give you a chance. Actually, you know what? You're muted the entire stream. Yeah. No. Will they wear hoods? What kind of Christian? Protestant? No. Orthodox. Well, I'm not introduced into the Orthodox Church or part of the Orthodox Church quite yet, but that is the theology in which I like the most. I resonate with the most. I find is the most truthful. But yeah, I don't think going to a feudalist system is backwards. I think it's more natural in a lot of ways. I think it can increase the morality of the society. I think because what democracies, are they really that good? I don't know. I don't think so. They're short-lived. When you have autocracies, I think they're much better. Equality there's no such thing as equality. We're different on certain levels, No, there's inequalities everywhere in nature, and it's totally good that there are. Are you in support of a theocracy? Probably, yes. Define theocracy, where basically it's a religion and state, and they rule together. So, the beliefs of the religion are implemented into the legal system, into the governmental system as well. Not socialism, but our country is factually hurting and making bad decisions. It is. So you don't believe in the Constitution? I like the Constitution. I think the Constitution provides a good framework for a good country, for a good nation. The problem is when you do away with religion entirely, you can no longer have a good nation. So this idea of separation of church and state is just to prevent the church influencing or being, governing. But you're always going to have your religion, your beliefs, your philosophy govern your action, whether you realize it or not. So you need to have some sort of good moral ground in order to have a good society. Why does one of the largest companies also have employees on food stamps? Yeah, very interesting. I mean, it could be their poor decision as well, right? So we can't just blame it all on the company. Could be, their lifestyle. But I get what you're saying 100%. I really do. So thoughts on Muslim prayers in schools, satanic prayer. I have no issue with prayers in school if it's done by the individual. I have no problem with teaching religions in school. I think they should be accompanied with history classes because every society has had a religious framework that they built upon. The King of England was the head of the church. Yeah. Yes, 100%. Yes, agreed 100%. We're fighting for people to put a roof over their head. Our homeless rate has skyrocketed. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't know that it's all greed, though. Like I said, it's a contractual agreement between you and the company. And also, what are you doing in your life? What are you spending your money on? What kind of debt are you in? What kind of decisions have you made? But yes, I get what you're saying. So if we were going to embed religion in our laws, what religion wins? Christianity, obviously. There's nothing in the Constitution about there isn't, by the way. There is, as far as I know, there is no separation of church and state. Christianity, because it is the true religion. Jesus Christ shows us the way of how man should be. His life embodies the ideal man. Have you studied other religions, read any other Bibles? Yes, I have. Judaism, Jesus was Jewish, actually. He wasn't Jewish. This is an insane thought. True religion. Yeah, so I've studied Hinduism. I've studied a lot of the New Age stuff, a lot of mysticism. No, he wasn't, because the Jews come from the father's line. And so if I'm about to prove it to you right now. So if we're going to assume Jesus is the direct son of God, and he didn't have a human father and his father was God, well, then we would have to say, since the Jewish line in the Bible, you got to let me finish. Okay. Since in the Bible, the Jewish lines come from the patriarchs, so the fathers, we would then have to say God is Jewish. That makes no logical sense to call God a religion, because the religion is the worship of a God. The God doesn't be of the religion. Joseph was from the house of David. Yes, I know, but that doesn't make him Jewish. Actually, wasn't it Mary? And also, Joseph was his quote unquote adopted. So I don't think Jesus was Jewish, because Jesus was God. So God isn't Christian. It's insane to call God Christian. It's insane to call God Jewish, because the religion is the thing that worships the God. The God can't be the thing that worships itself. It doesn't make any sense. Religion is not for everyone. Spirituality is it's a backbone. No, you need religions to build civilizations. If you have spirituality, then you need religion, because spirituality without religion leads you down a path of confusion. Fact. Because religion, where it comes from the root word relagal, which means to reconnect, and religion truly means to reconnect with God. So if you have spirituality, you need something to help you reconnect with God, and religion serves as a pathway for you to reconnect with God. Good gosh, please learn your history. I don't know what you're talking about. Is Jesus the Messiah on Mars? Who knows if Mars is a real planet? It could just be a light. So I don't think we should allow religions overrule laws of any sort. They do already. Your belief systems, your ethics come from some sort of belief. Not everyone believes in a God or human form. You're right, but just because they don't believe in a God doesn't mean that God isn't real. Please go to college. I did. I have a couple degrees. So, yeah. You stop believing in fairy tales like the solar system and such. Dude just questioned Mars' existence. All his points are now invalid. Okay. And you don't believe in Mars? I don't know what Mars is. Neither do you, if you're being honest with yourself. You've never been there. You'll never go there. Nobody will ever go there. It's a planet. So you think. It's a belief system that it's a planet. Could just be a celestial light. We don't know what it is. Objectively, we don't. There are, well, allegedly. Look into Greenland. Do some research on Greenland. Allegedly. We have allegedly. Science has become a religion. The whole world that takes pictures. Allegedly. And it doesn't actually. I mean, these things are a lot of the LOL, this guy, Jesus was a Jew. It's not disputed. I'm disputing it. I don't think Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was God. He's going to tell us he's a flat earther next. No, I don't know what the earth is. I don't know what the earth is. Why do Christians just refuse to accept science and reality? Jesus was a Pisces. Are these alternative facts? That's nonsense. Actually, most of the scientists that you like from history were Christians. Christianity arguably launched science to what it is today, as did pretty much, I don't know about every religion, but definitely Christianity. I just don't believe in that a religion should voice any laws. It does, regardless if you believe it or not. The people that are making the law, okay. I don't judge people by their religion. Okay. Some people believe in manifestation. Yeah, manifestation is real. Christians believe in manifestation. We just attribute the manifestation to God, not ourselves, because we're not God. Do you believe in air just because you can't see it? I believe that I'm breathing in something. I don't care if a scientist is Christian, Jewish, Muslim, etc. I don't care either, as long as they do proper science, which proper science isn't really being done today. There's a reproducibility crisis in science. I've talked about this numerous times. You are really manifesting it by thinking it and praying it. No God needed. Well, then why are you praying? What are you praying to? I love how you guys just make up facts these days. That's what you guys do, actually. Explain why some of the most evil people are the most religious. Explain why some of the most evil people are atheist. It's a weak argument. Christians just never give themselves credit. Yeah, because we understand that it's not us actually doing it. That we can work within God's will. Praying equals Christian manifestation. But what are you praying to? Proper science, it's already gotten more advanced. These uneducated peasants are in my chat. They don't understand that science has been corrupted. It has been taken over by Satan. There's a reproducibility crisis, guys. Define Christianity and how it differs from Judaism. Very simple. We accept the fact that Jesus Christ is the Messiah and was God. Uneducated, you said Mars doesn't exist. You sound brainwashed. Don't call me a peasant. I read the Bible and many others. Christian Bible is so silly. Okay, peasant. Just because you say something doesn't mean it's true, uneducated peasants. So Christian of you, truly. Just because you say something doesn't mean it's true either. I mean, you guys sound like a bunch of 2-year-olds. Not even 2-year-olds. I mean, probably I'll give you 3-year-olds. I'll give you a little credit. 3-4-year-olds. The mark of a great debater. I am actually a really good debater. This is something that anybody who knows me knows this. I was the president of the debate club. I actually started the debate club in my college, and debating is one of my strong suits. Bro, we are not the ones who don't believe in Mars. Bro, you're the one who's brainwashed. You sound like a sheeple right now. I'm getting bashed, maybe because it's true. Law of attraction. Yeah. Law of attraction is real. I don't. Where did you go to college? I went to Ohio Technical College, then I went to a community college here, and then I went to Case Western University in Ohio. And then from there, I decided at that point I was debt-free, drop out. Lies? Okay. I have nothing to prove to you. I think it's lies that you think that Mars is real. I think that you are just so brainwashed. So you think that the whole earth feels the same about the things for a reason? I don't know what that even means. And it doesn't even matter what college you go to. I mean, colleges by and large are crap. They're indoctrination camps to make people feel smarter, but it actually makes them less educated. Yeah. The dark side. Like every country, not just US, you think everyone's brainwashed? No, I think that a lot of people are brainwashed. And thank you, Julie1737, or Jules, rather, for the rose. 2 roses, maybe. I don't know. Thank you. What's going on the dark side?
Hey, what's up, man?
Not a whole lot. How are you?
So what you're saying is that if you go to a college, you're indoctrinated into their beliefs. Would this be correct?
Yeah, it was a general statement. I mean, there are definitely things like math, like the STEMs, that are very hard to be corrupted by. However, there are a lot of science that are corrupted. But, hard things like math, it's very hard to be indoctrinated in that.
Agreed. That's why I've always said that people should go to trade schools. There are specific countries that actually pay their kids to go to high school, and they specifically see what kind of trades they would be good at. Why? Because it would benefit the society, right? And they don't charge them for this. I mean, what's the point of figuring out what your kid can be good at and then just send them to do whatever the heck they want to spend their money on, and then they fail at it?
Yeah, so I agree partially. I don't think that you should pay for trade schools. I think trade schools in and of themselves can be scamish as well. I went to a trade school. I think that apprenticeships are the way to go. Why go to a trade school when you can just get an apprenticeship in said field?
Okay, I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. I mean, if you can get away with doing it for free, then why pay? Right? 100% agree. However, let's say that instead of doing the SATs and whatnot, you just figure out what the kids are good at and send them to those schools for free and train them in high school to do those specific trades.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea either. I mean, as long as it's free training, because otherwise you can get paid during an apprenticeship to learn how to do the skill, But if you're going to offer that as part of a high school education, as some countries, you rightly pointed out, do, I would agree with that.
And that's the whole point. Is like, why waste your time learning stuff you're never going to use?
Right. I couldn't agree with that more.
Tell me one time in your adult life you've ever learned trigonometry, or used it, I should say.
I don't know, probably in some technical way I have, but I've never used like the equations to solve any problem in my life. But I'm sure in some way, shape, or form I have used it but
what
unconsciously. Once same thing, but my point, I get your point. Like I've never used an equation for calculus in my life. I'm just saying on a more technical level, I probably have, and I don't realize it. As have you.
Most of the times you use basic mathematical skills, like what is 2 times 10?
Yep.
Okay. And then so on and so forth. But my point is, like, let's say you learn that your kid is good at dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Should you send them to a dancing class? And
Probably.
see if they like it?
Probably.
Let's say your kid's great at carpentry. Should you send them to that? Or would you send them to a math class? That's my point. It's like, why waste your time? Why waste your kids' time? Why not see what they're good at? Why shouldn't the SATs be good at showing us, hey, this is what your kid's good at? And maybe we should focus their attention on that.
Well, the SATs used to be an IQ test. And then that was a good determination as to what a kid was capable of doing, where their intelligence lies. And so it used to be beneficial, and now it's not so much.
That's my point, is that we've gotten off track.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. We have gotten off track. And I think that people should do what they are good at and focus on what they are good at.
And I do not agree with the ways that Japanese and Chinese raise their kids, but they do have a good point in the fact that they do actually do that.
Yeah, I think that I think that the way they raise their kids is pretty based. I believe that it's the parents' responsibility to guide their child into whatever profession they're going into. I think this idea that your child should decide what they want to go into on their own and have all these options is an insane idea. It's a new idea, and it doesn't work out very well for most people.
Right.
So you should definitely, I think that parents should have a huge say in what their children do with their life. A huge say.
Let me ask you something. How many times have you known someone that's great at art, and everybody's like, oh, you need to stop focusing your attention on that and focus it on something else? But why not indulge that and saying, hey, you're really great at art and you have a natural ability at that. Why not push them towards that and encourage that?
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. But as far as a profession, I think if your family has a history as being something, for example, a baker, well, then I think it should be very much pushed on the child to be a baker as well. But it doesn't mean that you can't practice your art outside of the baking. It doesn't mean that you can't do your artwork outside of the baking, before the baking. If you want to do art shows on your own time, go ahead. But I really believe that parents should have a huge say in what their children do with their lives.
And here's my rebuttal to that. There's so many movies about kids rebelling against their parents according to the fact that their parents have a specific business and they're trying to push them towards that. It only makes the child rebel more against doing that.
You've been taught that by Hollywood.
No, I mean,
you have. You just said
fact.
Movies. You just said there's been a bunch of movies that show you that it doesn't work. You've been taught that by Hollywood.
But my point is this, is that, okay, every lie is 50% true.
I get what you're saying.
Okay? And so, like, for instance, let's go with, okay, dragons. Do you already see where I'm coming with this?
I mean, dragons may be absolutely real. I have no clue.
Every lie is 50% true. So let's say you're talking smack about somebody. Everything you say is 50% true. And that's a fact. Because there's truth in all fiction.
Yep.
So, yes, you can say, I got this information from movies, but I've also known a lot of people who are like, man, my parents are pushing me to be a lawyer, but I want to do something different.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. My point is, if your family is known for doing something, if you already have a path, think about the Trumps, man. The Trumps had no option but to do what their dad had built and what his father had built and what his father had built. And this is why the wealthy, a lot of the time, stay wealthy. And so this is the way you also build generational wealth over time. This idea that you fragmentize your family so they can seek their own pleasures and desires is ludicrous. The way that you build up a strong family over time is having a coherent profession.
Okay, so with a quick rebuttal, then I would have to bring up Biden and
Okay.
his son.
Yeah. Well, the issue there is obviously there's a huge problem with Joe Biden, right? I mean, we're not even going to really go into it, but you can tell somebody by their fruits. And his daughter's really messed up. His son's really messed up. I don't really hear much about Trump's kids being that messed up. I don't know about you.
My point is that you can't always base the fruits of their labors, okay, just because of one seed.
I think that you can. I think that if your child becomes as Joe Biden's children, you failed as a parent. Even if it's just one, you failed as a parent. Even if it's just one child, you failed. You did something wrong raising that child.
That's a tough tree to climb.
I climbed it. I'm at the top.
Okay, so you're trying to be an internet person or whatnot.
Yep.
And what did your parents do?
Yeah. So my parents, they both dropped out of high school. They worked in manufacturing for quite some time. My dad is now an entrepreneur. He owns real estate, is in a couple other businesses, doing pretty well for himself. My mom is still working at the same company that she worked in before. And I get where you're coming from, that why didn't I do what my parents did? And that's because there was no coherent line of profession as to what they did. And so I'm saying that if one becomes awakened to the truths of reality in some way, shape, or form, which I feel that this is a truth of reality, that you should do what your family does because that you carry the last name and it's the right thing to do. You should honor that last name. Well, then if you become aware of that later in your life and you realize that your family did not do that, well, then it's up to you as the one that's aware to correct the ship.
So my point is that you can't look to your parents and be like, hey, just because they're doing something, I should do it too.
I don't think that you understood my point.
My point is this, is that you're saying that your parents have both decided different paths in life. And it seems apparent to me that what you're saying is if both of your parents establish a set point prior to your birth, then you should continue said point.
Yes, 100%.
If they did not, then what are you going to do?
Say that again?
So, unless your parents have established a business prior to your birth, what path are you going to take?
Well, it doesn't even have to be that they establish a business. They could just be a professional in something, and then you can follow in that line because it would be the natural apprenticeship, right? We both agree that apprenticeships and trade schools are good. Well, then you would just have your own personal journeyman or master craftsman in that profession that you can then learn from.
Okay, well, my mom was an amazing carpenter, and she was a foreman. Did I like carpentry? Yes. Did I take that up as a profession? No, because I had different plans.
Okay.
Because we're all different.
Yeah, so I mean, we agree on some things, we disagree on some things. I don't think that we're gonna come to similar conclusions on this. We're not going to share a conclusion on this.
No. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but the parent should install a passion for that and show them why it's a good thing to follow up on.
Mm-hmm.
So I get what you're saying by the parents need to instill this. Yes. However, I also think that if you see something in your child that they love and want to pursue, that regardless, even if it isn't that particular business that you're in, that your job as a parent, as well as a good parent, should be to help them along their way, whichever way it is.
Maybe. I mean, are you a parent?
Yes.
Awesome. Me too. I say maybe because I have daughters. I don't want them to ever work. I don't feel that it's natural for a woman to work outside of the home. So I want their suitors to take care of them entirely. And until then, I'm in charge of them, in charge and providing for them.
Well, on that, maybe you should change that title above your head to say something like you just said, because that'll change the whole dynamic of what you're talking about.
What title?
Because you're basically saying that a woman shouldn't work and that she should find a man to work for her.
Yeah, that's the natural way of doing things. It is. It doesn't mean that she can't work in the home and produce products in the home, but her primary job is to raise children and to make a beautiful home, which is a very important job. Very. Arguably.
I don't disagree with that. However, God, this is such a hard way of saying this, that women are no less than men, and women want to do what they want to do.
And nearly all women want to be a mother, want to be a wife. And if you've ever been as you have, you know that women default to your judgment if you are a good, solid man. They do. They begin to pick up on your mannerisms, your lingo. They want to wear your clothes. Women want to be led. They do. I mean, this is like anybody who's honest about the natural dynamics. This is what it is.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that women are any less than men. No.
I dare you to invite a modern woman into this chat and have that same conversation with her.
Hey, Paige, you want to come over here and have this chat? I'm talking to my modern wife.
No, not one that you're familiar with, but another one from this chat.
Yeah, modern Western women are insane. And it's unfortunate because men have become weak. That's why they're insane, is because men are weak.
So wait. So if your wife decides she wants to have a job outside of the house, what are you going to tell her?
No, she's not. She's going to be raising our children. She can find ways to make money in the home if she wants to make money. And she would default to my judgment. Fact.
Okay. I mean, if that's like your beliefs, then, I have no issues with that.
It's not control issues. It's about knowing my role as a man and as a provider. My wife is a very valuable asset to our family, and it is not responsible of me to let her go out into a world where she could be potentially in danger, especially as the world is becoming crazier and crazier every day because we're falling as an empire. And so things are going to get worse. So it's my responsibility to protect my wife because we have small children at home. And also she's my wife. She's my lover. So I have an obligation to protect her. And the best way to protect her and provide for her is to keep her in the home. You think your wife is weak? Physically, yes. Physically, very much so.
Why don't you teach her to be strong?
She is strong mentally. She is a great mother. She is a strong mother. She is a strong wife. But physically, to defend herself, no, that's my job. That's our job as men. We're the warriors.
No, look, I'm a big man. I'm 6'8".
Dang,
But
you tower over me,
at the
dude.
same time,
You're like a foot taller than me.
yeah. So my point is this: is that it takes two to guard the house.
Yeah, so your
let me ask you
wife
something.
protects
If you're
the
at
mind.
work,
Your wife protects the
if you're-
mind and education of the child, and then instills good values in them. And the husband, I'm the one in the middle of the night. If somebody breaks in the house, I'm risking my life for my family, not my wife. My wife is going to stay in there and get the children and her into a safe location while I defend the home.
So what do you do when you're at work and someone intrudes your house?
Well, then it's up to my wife. But it's not the default. It is not the normal thing. Obviously, the best situation is for me to be here. But if I'm not here, God forbid that happens, well, then my wife should grab the children and get out of the house if she can. And if she can't, do what you can to defend yourself. But she's at a severe disadvantage.
You're teaching your wife the only thing she's good at is cooking and taking care of the kids. Why aren't
No,
you teaching
I'm
her
not.
to be strong to defend said kids?
I am. I don't think you're listening
How?
to me. I am telling you the dynamics between a man and a woman. On a physical level, it is insane to think that even if my wife was trained in jiu-jitsu and boxing, she would get her ass kicked by any average man. Fact. Any average man with no training whatsoever and it just has the average strength of a man, she would get manhandled. So it's ludicrous to think that I can have her go train in a gym to protect the home. And it would be a little bit better to say, hey, honey, here's how you load up the gun if you need to self-defend. That's better. But the best thing to do for her, if a man breaks into the home and I'm not there, is to run away. That is the best thing to do.
So you admitted that you're a foot taller than me.
No,
shorter than
you
me,
are. Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if I broke into your house and your wife and kids weren't home, I'd manhandle you.
Wrong, dude. I don't think so. I don't think so. I've been actually trained. I've been actually trained in combat all my life. I've been actually trained in combat all my life.
So have I. I'm retired military.
Awesome, dude. So we would have a fun match. You would probably win, but you would definitely not leave the house unscratched, and you would probably be hurt quite a bit.
Agreed. But my point is this, is that I don't think that you're any weaker because you're smaller and less stronger than I am.
You're insane, dude. I am weaker than you physically. You have more bone density than me. You have more bone density than me. You have more weight than me. You have more height than me. You have a severe advantage over me. So yes, you are stronger than me. I'd give you that. I mean, obviously you're 6'8". You're probably like in mid 200s, maybe close to 300 pounds. You're a big boy, but you are stronger than me, just like you're stronger than any woman you would encounter.
Do you know anything about martial arts? Do you know the fact that it's not about weight and size? It's all about technique?
Well, that's debatable, because if you have a severe advantage over me, as you do, well, my boxing skill doesn't really do me much good, right? My wrestling skills don't do me much good.
No, actually it does.
It kind of does. However, but you can just
I don't have.
But you could use brute force over me. So if we were ever to get into a physical, first off, if we were ever to get into a physical altercation, if I was ever to get into a physical altercation with a guy that's 6'8", I am going to be grabbing your balls. I'm going to be kicking your knees. I'm going to do the dirtiest things ever. So martial arts would never come into play. And if I had the option for a weapon, I would definitely use a weapon.
Okay. And my point is this, is that it's not about size and weight. It's about technique and knowledge. And trust me, have you ever read the book of war?
Yes.
Okay, then why do they put the females in charge?
The Book of War. Okay, maybe I haven't then.
The
I don't know
Art
what
of
you're
War.
talking about.
The Art of War. I apologize. It's called The Art of War.
Yeah, by Sun Tzu. I don't know that they put the woman in charge in Sun Tzu.
Yeah, they actually do.
Well, they're insane.
Well, it's because you haven't understood it. It's not about size and weight. It's about technique and knowledge.
Dude,
How many dishes can you cook that your wife can cook?
okay. So I get what you're saying because I wrestled for a few years of my life. I grew up with a boxer. I boxed most of my life. I get what you're saying. But if Floyd Mayweather gets into the ring with the Big Show, the WWE wrestler who's like 7'1", Floyd Mayweather, his skill and technique doesn't matter. He's going to go down.
Really? So when Conor McGregor, a person that studies multiple martial arts, got into a guy with one technique, which was just boxing, and Floyd Mayweather whooped his ass.
Yeah,
Why is that?
They were fairly close in size.
But it doesn't matter.
It does. The Big Show's like 7'1", like 400 pounds. Dude, there are some things that, yes, I get what you're saying, but there could be such a, like Bruce Lee will get his ass kicked against Mike Tyson every day. If Bruce Lee was alive. Fact, Mike Tyson's just bigger, stronger, techniques,
Austin,
all that.
It would be a different story.
Yes, and if he went into the UFC, it would be a different story. Just like if Floyd Mayweather were to get, or let's say Conor McGregor, if what you're saying was true, then why is there even weight classes? Then it wouldn't matter. It would be more entertaining to allow people to fight within different weight classes because it would be an unfair advantage to the person who's bigger and stronger.
Okay, so let's talk about Spud Webb versus
He's an anomaly. He's an anomaly.
Spud Webb is 5'2".
He's an anomaly, though.
Versus a bunch of people. But why? Because he had knowledge.
But he was an outlier. But that doesn't matter. It has everything to do with him being an outlier. Not everybody can be Spud Webb. And my point stands. Like it's factual. Like you would not have a featherweight going against a heavyweight in the UFC. You wouldn't. You wouldn't.
It would be honestly, if I'm a betting man, I would bet on a featherweight because they have way more energy. They're way more spunky. They're way faster.
You're insane.
I would honestly love to see it, because I'm like, man, featherweights, dude, I'd prefer to watch a featherweight fight than I would a heavyweight fight because heavyweights are slower. Yes, if a heavyweight got a good punch in, maybe he'll do some damage. But I just think a lightweight or featherweight would just do so much damage to that heavyweight before that heavyweight could do anything.
No, definitely not. And you are right that we got way off topic. We are way off topic here. But no, dude, women don't belong on the battlefield. This is why we have patriarchies. This is why patriarchies have outlasted any matriarch that there has been. Men are meant to lead societies. Women are meant to lead the home. There's a beautiful symbiotic relationship.
So you believe that you're a hunter-gatherer while your wife is a home care?
I believe that I am a man, and I believe that my wife is a woman. I don't believe, I know. And I'm just adhering to the natural dynamic in the relationship. That's all.
All right. I mean, that's fair enough. That's your opinion. And
I mean, I don't even know why people think this is an opinion.
Your belief.
This is true. This is a truism. This is a reality of the world. Anybody who lives in a natural setting will tell you the men are going to defend the tribe, not the women. If the women are defending your tribe, you lost. You already lost. The Viking women were very tough. Right? The Viking women were very tough. They were also trained in some combat, but they were the last line of defense if the village was getting ransacked. And so you knew that if you were going up against the women in the Viking villages, you won.
I disagree with that statement only because I would say this, in my personal belief, most of the men I know have to ask their wife's permission to leave the house to go out with their friends.
I agree with you. And it's because, as I said, women have become the way they've become because men are weak, because they're like, oh, I have to adhere to what my wife. Screw that. Screw that. You're the man of the house. You're the king of the castle. You decide what you're going to do because you are the provider for the family. You are the protector for the family. If you want to go out and hang out with your buddies at 8 o'clock at night and your wife's going to be pissed off, well, you should have the balls to be like, I don't really care. I'm going to go. And guess what? She's going to love you a lot more. Actually, ironically, she will love you a lot more because women, what they really want is attention. And so if you're withdrawing your attention and you're being more selective at the time that you spend with them, it's a weird thing that they crave you more, and then they're going to default to your judgment more. It's just the way it works in a relationship.
Really?
It is, yeah.
So you're saying that the more you discard your woman's feelings, the more she'll love you?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, but it doesn't mean that you are a total jerk to her. It doesn't mean that you have to be rude to her at all. It just is a matter of basically being like, hey, like, okay, for instance, if we look at my relationship with my wife, I have a beautiful relationship. We have a beautiful marriage. We barely fight. I mean, there are times where we have our differences, but we barely fight. And my wife will never tell me that I can't go do something. And if she tells me I can't go do something, it doesn't matter. I'll still do it if I want to do it. Okay? And if my wife and I are having an argument or a dispute and I know that I'm in the right, the best thing for me to do is to withdraw attention. That's the best thing for me to do. But it doesn't mean that you're being a jerk to your girl all the time. You have to deploy these things tactfully in your relationship in order to have a successful relationship. And it doesn't mean that you're rude to your wife. That's not what I'm saying at all. I love my wife very much. My wife is currently pregnant. I'll do the dishes. I'll sweep the floor if I have to. I'll change some diapers if I have to. But it's not something I'm doing every day. It's not something I'm doing all the time either. But there are things in which I will help my wife with. I'm a very caring and loving man, but these are true things in what I'm saying to you in regards to relationships. Your woman will respect you a lot more if, one, you're honest with her, two, you are an actually productive man, and being productive means that you can't spend all the time with her. And there are going to be times where you're going to upset her because you choose to work. You choose to do something over spending time with her. There are going to be times where you have to tell your wife no. Like, you're not going to go do that. She likes that. They like that. They do like that.
Wait, your wife likes it when you choose to do other things than spend time with her?
She may not like it in the moment, but subconsciously there's creating this, we're going to go down this deep rabbit hole of psychology and things like that. But yes, if you just look at how relationships operate, the only weapon a man has in a relationship really is attention, because women can get attention from everybody. So, I mean, it's very easy for a woman to get attention. Women are the gatekeepers of sex, and they hold a lot of power in today's society. And so really the true power a man has is their attention. And so if you give all your attention to a woman, especially your wife.
I can relate to that. I can relate to what you're saying right now. However, there are things I disagree with you, and that's why I'm willing to continue down this rabbit hole, because I feel it's enlightening, and maybe I don't understand everything. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously I'm not perfect, and
me either.
I'm always willing to look at both shoes instead of one. So please continue. So our best power is the attention.
Yes. So women are going to pick the man in which that can provide them with the most resources and can protect them. So women date up. Men, they'll date down, they'll date sideways. And if they get lucky, they can date up if they're not already a 10 themselves. Then they would have to date up.
So may I ask you this? How did you and your wife meet?
Online.
It's just that simple?
Yeah. We met online.
Like you're applying for a job and you're like, why leave the house and meet my employer in person? I'm just going to meet them online.
I don't get what you're saying.
So my point is, why did you not put the effort? Like for me personally, maybe I'm a little older, but if I'm going to apply for a job, I want to apply for that job in person.
Yeah, so you know that my wife and I met before we got married. We went on several dates. We dated for years before we got married. Not years, actually,
Well,
6 months.
With all due respect, I don't know any of this information, and that's why I'm asking.
Fair enough.
So please tell me the story.
So yeah, we met online, started talking online, went on dates, moved in with each other. And then we got engaged and then married.
So what did you do to attract your wife, so to speak?
Be myself. I mean, I didn't do anything really to try and attract my wife other than myself. I had goals in mind and I enjoyed her company. So I did what I was doing at the time, focused on my goals, came home to her.
Where's the spark?
I mean, I mean, there was really, I'm not much of like, oh, I had to get her flowers to impress her or things like that. I mean, yeah, I'd done some cute things like that throughout the relationship, but I didn't really try to win her heart over. I mean, do you recall any time that I tried to win? No, I just stayed on my mission, dude. I had goals in mind that I wanted to achieve. I liked her and I wanted her by my side. And she was like, well, this guy has a goal. This guy has a vision for the future. I like his vision for the future. And I also really like him. So I'm going to stick around. Yeah. I mean, I didn't do anything fancy at all. That's not my style.
All right. So with all due respect, may I hear your wife's version of that story?
I mean, it's if she wants to talk. She just literally said, and I quote, pretty much the same.
Wow. Okay. So be it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I have nothing wrong with being romantic. I've written my wife poems. I've given my wife flowers. I've taken her on beautiful dates. I can do all those things. But as far as winning her heart over, I didn't do anything like that. I just was myself, focused on what I wanted to focus on. And, you know, we had a relationship.
All right, so out of the blue, without reaching for a piece of paper, tell me one of the poems you wrote.
Well, that's none of your business.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be like...
Well, it's none of your business, though. I don't have to get into it.
Anything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't have to share it.
Okay.
That's between her and I.
Okay.
So, but I get what you're doing, but...
All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see the room where the spark is. Like, I get you. You're a manly man, and I'm a manly man as well.
No, I'm just telling you this is. I'm not trying to portray anything here.
Some kind of spark.
I'm not trying to portray anything here. I'm just being as honest and direct with you as I possibly can be, because I prefer to be direct, and that's exactly how it happened. And then we got married. Waited we should have had kids right away, you know, a lot sooner than we did. We're still pretty young, 26 and 27. But we should have had kids a lot sooner.
What would be the preferred age for you to have had kids versus when you did?
Honestly, now with what I know, and if I had the mindset that I had now, as far as understanding of the world, which you can't. But if I could go back with the knowledge that I have, probably like 17, 18,
Wow.
maybe even 16, honestly. But yeah, really, really young in teenage years.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I can understand what you're going for. Therefore, you could live out your later days, and the kids would be grown up and gone.
Well, it's not only
I can
that; it's
understand
just being able to like. So if we started having kids at like 18, we'd be able to, have kids for like 18 years almost.
Yeah.
That'd be
Then
awesome.
you'd be what? 36?
Yeah, and we'd have like a bunch of kids by the time we're 36, of a variety of ages.
Okay.
That's
Nothing wrong with
wealth.
that.
Big families are wealth.
In today's society, I'm kind of thinking the opposite, but I mean, I can understand your mindset. Like, it's funny how older people are like, oh, why can't you keep your, things in your pants and whatnot? And then you look back at these old timey families and they have like fucking 20 kids. Sorry
Right.
for my language.
No, I get it. It's funny.
Like, come on, Grandma, how are you telling me, like, I'm a horny bastard and you have like 20 fucking kids? Like,
Right. I know. It's great. I think it's funny too. But I get their point though. It's like you're just having those kind of relationships with anybody, I think is what they're getting at. And I would agree with them that most people do that these days.
right. But I mean, the average family right now, like, is like 4 at best kids.
No, the average
And then
family in the
you look
United
back and
States,
you're like,
the average family in the United States is having less than 2 kids, which is bad.
yeah. And then what was it back in like the 1920s? Like,
I don't
freaking
know.
10, 15?
Probably somewhere around 5 to 10, yeah.
I mean, that's got to be where the phrase hot dog down a hallway comes from.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I mean, that's the best way I could put it. I mean, come on. Like, after 10 kids, that thing's got to be like.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I'm not even going to say it because it's just not polite.
Oh man. That's great.
Childbirth must take like 20 seconds.
It does get quicker with the more children you have. That is true.
Here's number 15.
Right.
All right, let's go.
Didn't even have time for the midwife to get there.
Just cut this goddamn thing and let me get out of here.
Right? That's great. That's awesome. Oh man.
I mean, seriously, dude. I'm baffled by it. You know what I mean? Like, nowadays, if you have a boy and a girl, they're like, do you want to get circumcised? Or does a girl want to have her tubes tied? But where was that back then? Hey, you've had 20 kids. Maybe you want to stop?
Well, we kind of disagree on that point, but I get what you're saying. It's pretty funny.
It's crazy. I'm sorry. These are just some random thoughts.
No, it's all good, dude.
No, but I do think that, I mean, nowadays, I can understand what you're saying. A woman working from home and still raising her family. Nowadays, that's possible. But rewind 10 years, I would say maybe not so much.
I'd say it always has been possible. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but it always is an option for every family. There are exceptions, obviously. You know, God forbid something happens to the husband. He can't work. You don't have a son that can work. Oh, then you got to do what you got to do. I get that. But most of the time, regardless of what era you've lived in, you could have made it work.
I wouldn't say regardless of what era. I mean, because at some point women couldn't drive. Therefore, how would they get to the grocery store? Unless she grew a garden or something.
Yeah,
right?
probably were a lot less accidents too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so regardless of era, maybe not so much. I mean, today, right now, you can literally order groceries, you can order clothes, you can order products, and everything you literally need from home, and you can work from home.
Yeah.
So, yes, I can understand that. But back in the day, not so much.
Yeah, why couldn't she just, go walk to the store if she couldn't drive?
Well, because you're the man.
What about it?
You were telling me that your woman shouldn't leave the house because you're the man. You'll get that stuff, right?
No, I have no issue with my wife leaving the house. I'm talking about her going to make money outside of the home.
So she can do everything she wants outside of the house except for make money?
No, that's not true either. I mean, my wife can't go out and have girls' nights every weekend. Not that she wants that, but there's certain things that, there would be boundaries, of course. But if she had to go to the store to go get some, a steak to cook me when I get home from work, that's totally fine. And if she wants to get a steak for herself too,
hey,
that's cool.
I come home from work and my wife's got a steak cooked for me. Like, hell yes.
That's what I'm saying, right? You have a nice steak. She went to the store to get you your steak. That's acceptable. She goes out clubbing with her friends. Haram.
Dude, I'll take the steak.
Same.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I hope that you understand that this is a friendly conversation.
Of course.
This isn't like me trying to like one up you or anything.
No, it's
like
all good,
that.
man.
I'm just trying to have a friendly conversation and understand, like, because I don't get all these nuances. And, they say that sometimes the best things to learn are where you came from versus where you are.
Yeah, 100%.
From my understandings, a lot of these things that you're saying are where we came from. But it's just hard to find a woman that believes in that.
Yeah, it's because they've been
I've had
brainwashed. And so
with my wife about taking out the trash, and she's like, well, that's a man's job. And I was like, then cook me some fucking dinner.
there you go, dude. You get it. She should. And if she isn't, I'm telling you, then ignore her. Don't even argue with her. Just ignore her. Go for a long drive for like 2 hours or something. Maybe not that because gas prices are high, but go somewhere for 2 hours and just ignore her. When she's like, I'm not going to cook you anything. All right, well, then I'm going to go have some other woman at a restaurant cook me food and then leave.
Well, I would never say I'm going to have another woman.
I know. I know.
I'm going to have another woman.
I know. It was a joke. You don't have to say that, obviously. You don't want to add fuel to the fire. But, you could if you wanted to. It'll probably spice things up come the evening if you catch my drift.
I mean, if you pissed off your wife and she's like, I'm going to have another dude cook.
It's totally different. That's haram.
Bitch.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. But if you're going to say, I'm going to have another woman cook my food, it's going to spice things up later in the bedroom for you, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
as in there will be no entrance to said bedroom.
There definitely will be, especially if you're gone for 5 hours. She's going to be, I'm so sorry. I can't believe that we got into this argument. How can I make this up to you? And you're going to be like, you know how to make it up.
Dude, wow. Okay. So at some point, I need a documentary here. Okay, because like some of your theories I agree with, but some of them I'm just like, I've kind of lived this life, and it never seems to work out well.
Dude, it's all good. I mean, I do believe in what I'm telling you. Obviously, I'm embellishing the truth a little bit in what I'm saying. But women are definitely more accepting, especially if you are a man that, gets respect, deserves respect of, you throwing out the other thing.
Here's the thing, like, okay, so what is your best option when you guys have a disagreement and she gets heated, you get heated? Like for me, it was taking a walk, but unfortunately, my girl would literally block the door and punch me in the damn face. Now, mind you, she was like 5'1", and I'm 6'8". I'm just like, please let me out of this house.
And it felt like a mosquito bit you when she punched you?
Right. But here's the thing. Like, I would never lay my hands on her. And yet, sometimes women feel like they have the right to hit you and abuse you because you're bigger and stronger than them.
We agree.
And you should accept it. And I'm just like, if you do that again,
let's be careful. Let's be careful. We're treading on dangerous grounds now for TikTok.
No, I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
but I get what you're saying.
I'm like, I'm giving the knife hand here while I'm talking. You can't see it, but I'm giving the knife hand. Like, you better stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say what you do in that instance, it's pretty simple. You get out the baby powder. And you got to keep I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I swear to God, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I know it's a joke. I know the movie. Yeah. Hilarious, but no.
Yeah, for sure. I'm totally joking. Totally joking. I don't think the only time, there should be anything about like you should ever consider putting your hands on a woman is if your life is in danger. That's the only time. But
or your kids.
Yes. Yeah. So like, I don't know, man, like you could easily pick her up and move her and then you could have went out the door. She could have been like an angry, pestilent child as you're picking her up. She's kicking and screaming. She's 5'1", you're 6'8". You're a freaking giant, dude.
More like picking up a rabid cat.
Yes, there you go. There you go. So, but you could easily toss her and she might find that attractive. And then you just leave.
You're looking through the screen while you're saying that, like, no.
I know, it'd be much harder. But you could easily get out the door if you wanted to. You're 6'8". You're a giant, dude.
Yes, I get my height, my size, and you get your height and your size, but I dare you to go through a door when your wife says you are not going through this goddamn door no matter what.
And then you say, I'm a man.
That door might as well be made of kryptonite.
Nah, dude, you say, I'm a man and I'm walking out of this house. And you walk out with dignity.
Look at your wife and say that.
She's literally right next to me as I'm saying this. She's literally right next to me. I mean, if my wife tried to stop me from leaving the house because we had some disagreement and I was determined on leaving the house.
Your wife was furious and stood in front of a door and was like, you're not leaving. And you were like, I'm a man and I'm leaving. It's not so simple.
Yeah, I'd open the door.
Wife will defend that door like a badger.
And I would say, you must move. And then she would be like a robot and say, yes, master, and walk away.
I'm really waiting for your wife to just slap you in the face right now. Because that would be my wife's response.
You got to train him, man.
Dear God, there's no way your wife is in this room.
Swear to God. Swear to God.
Show me, but I'm right
Yeah.
Show me your wife.
She doesn't
you,
want
You must be lying.
say something.
I'm
No
right
way.
here.
Talk loudly.
I'm right here. Literally on the couch
Oh
next
my
to the couch sheets.
God.
And I'm laughing with you and joked that I would then go make the steak.
I promise you, if your wife was so furious with you, there's no way she's just going to be like, oh, move out of the way. Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. No, she's going to claw your face and kick you in the penis. And
It's because it sounds like you need some woman training.
I can't. Where did you meet this woman? Does she have a sister?
No.
This is impossible.
My wife and I have a great relationship. We really do.
Clearly.
We have an awesome relationship because she understands that I am the master of the household. I am the king. This is my castle. And I treat her with much respect as she treats me with much respect. It's a beautiful thing.
I agree with Toxic. Just leap through the window.
Yeah, you could, but it's going to be hard for you, dude. You're a freaking giant. And then we got somebody on YouTube. We got Mick on YouTube saying, me and my wife have an agreement that we won't run away from each other during an argument. We will talk it out. That's a healthy thing to do. I mean, to talk out your disputes is healthy for sure. You know, I'm not saying that, your wife I don't know. There are times where, if it's definitely understandable that, like, if you've been gone all day, it'll be your castle until after 360-month payments in most cases.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not the only one who's like, what?
I know, man. There's what can I say, dude? What can I say about myself? I don't know, man. Like, it is what it is. Like, for instance,
what was your upbringing?
Dude, I grew up with men who were straight up G's and pimps, swear to God. All the men on my father's side have multiple families. They have, and all the women in their life still love them. Swear to God, it's awesome. Actually, it's not really awesome, but it's kind of awesome. It shows you
I understand where the baby powder statement came from.
Yeah, but I would never do that. I would never do that. For the record, I would never, ever. Right. Oh,
I
man.
swear, baby, my balls are sweating. Every time you reach for it, she's just like doing this stone cold, like, oh shit.
Right. You come over here, it's
What are you doing?
right. Oh, man. No. I mean, I grew up with very strong men. Very strong men is what I would say. They were what people would call today alphas. I'm not calling myself an alpha. I don't think I'm an alpha. But I grew up around a bunch of them for sure. So those were the male role models in my life. And so
that's very funny that you bring up the alpha statement, because I was told I was always an alpha.
Yeah.
But the way some people were saying that I was an alpha kind of confused me, because they almost said it insultingly. So I had to look up the difference between an alpha and a beta.
Yeah.
And while, yes, I am an alpha, I do contribute some beta qualities. But I'm primarily an alpha. But it's almost insulting.
I get what you're saying, because people use it in a condescending way. I think that there's a social sexual hierarchy. I think that alphas and sigmas are at the top of them, although sigmas are outside of the hierarchy. Bravos.
Hold please? Because I never looked up sigmas. Could you please define that to me, please?
Yeah, so the simplest way that, just to keep everything quick, so the simplest way of for explaining a sigma is a man who's outside of the hierarchy, the sexual hierarchy. However, has the same qualities as an alpha, but doesn't wish to lead and rather be a rebel, if you will. But he's still able to get the same caliber of woman as the alpha. He can lead in an alpha situation if he had to, because he has similar characteristics. But the biggest distinguishing factor is that he chooses to operate outside of a hierarchy, whereas the alpha prefers to operate inside of a hierarchy.
See, now that more describes me because I don't want to rule the pack. I'd rather be on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I could step into a pack and destroy it if I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that.
Choose not to.
Yeah, so I think I would fall more in a Bravo role if I'm being, totally honest, which I do prefer to have a strong alpha, and then I will follow that alpha. But in situations, I can be the alpha. I do run 2 companies, and in those situations, I am the alpha by default. But I feel more comfortable if there is a alpha above me that I can follow. I do. And I think it's because I grew up with alpha males, and I, feel comfortable following my father's lead in a lot of situations. Yep. So I would fit more into a Bravo.
Alpha, and my whole situation was that I must destroy said alpha.
What was that?
I said I grew up as an alpha, but in my situation, I felt like I must take said alpha out and I must be the alpha. But then after I realized I couldn't, I decided to leave said pack and become my own alpha. But I know I could come back and easily rule.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but there's also more to it as well, the social sexual hierarchy. So then you have deltas, which come after the Bravos. So deltas would be, your men who have missions and goals that they're just focused on, and they are just hard workers. They want to get tasks done. They don't care to lead. They rather be looked at as competent. And, you can look at them as sort of the men who make society. The majority of men in society tend to be deltas. And then gammas are the next.
Freaking things are there? I only thought there was alpha and beta.
Yeah, so Vox Day is the creator of the social sexual hierarchy.
Fox?
I'm sorry?
There's a Fox?
No, it's Vox Day. Vox Day is his pseudonym. He created the social sexual hierarchy. And it goes into detail as to where men are in the hierarchy, because it's only for men, because women don't have a hierarchy. Anyway, so you have the deltas who prefer to be looked at as competent and basically make up most of society. And then you have your gammas who think that they're smarter than everybody, think that they're actually the leader, or could be the leader. Not saying this is you, but thinking that they could be the leader when in reality they couldn't be the leader. They're the ones who are typically more romantic with their women. As far as like, I know I said I wrote a poem for my wife, but I wrote a poem for my wife. But, men who are like in the movies where they have their stereo coming to a girl's house and trying to, win over the girl's heart. Those are, your more gamma types. And then your omegas are the guys who are totally outside of the hierarchy, but they just don't really have the selection that a sigma does as far as mating goes. They're typically out of the hierarchy because they're losers, they're nerds, they don't fit in, they don't like society very much, antisocial, etc.
Right, but if I was to think about that the way you said it, I would think omegas would be very crafty.
They could be.
Spiteful.
They could be, yeah.
I would not put anything past an omega. Honestly, the way you described it, I would think an omega would be like and there's good reason they're called Omega, because Omega is significantly the end of something.
Yep.
And I would think they'd be psychopaths.
Well, your Omegas are typically the ones that do the school events. I don't know what I can say here, but you get my drift.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They sound like psychopaths.
Yeah, they're typically the personality type that would do that. Yes.
Yeah, like, ouch.
Yes.
I would say I'm more of an alpha gamma than.
Well,
I didn't even know there was all those different things. Is there like a site to look that up?
Yeah, so you can let me just Google search it really quick. Let me see if I do Vox Day social sexual hierarchy.
And that's a great question, Toxic. What is a alpha within the Chinese alphabet? And the reason I say it's a great question is because if I look at astrology versus like American versus Chinese, if you were to put your zodiac sign versus like your Chinese zodiac or Asian zodiac, I don't know if it's Japanese, Chinese, whatever. It kind of spells a person out, in my opinion.
You can go to this YouTube right here, this YouTube channel. It gives you.
Where the play sign is, it's kind of messing my brain up.
So right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So just go to YouTube, type that in, make sure it's Voxiversity, and then that should be it. Let me just play it really quick to see if that's it.
On Vox Day. And in this video,
Yes.
we're talking about the socio-sexual hierarchy.
Yes, that is the video. But there's also articles on this and stuff, but yeah.
Sexual hierarchy. Social sexual hierarchy. Okay.
Yep.
I get that one.
Yep. And it's mainly just a tool that other men can use to figure out who they're working with.
Huh. I would think that would cause a lot of testosterone issues. Now hold on. Before you say anything, I want you, since you obviously have a computer in front of you, I want you to look at the testosterone levels between someone that's 5 foot and 6+ foot tall, and then you'll understand why Napoleon had such a hot head versus the tall people who are actually gentle giants, where that term came from, because there's a big difference. I
Well,
don't understand so many short people are very aggressive with tall people. If they would have seen the scientific difference between them, they would understand that the taller you are, the actual nicer you are. Tell me one tall person you've ever met where you're like, he's a complete asshole and he's out of control.
no, I agree with
How many
you.
short people have you met that you're like, dude, he's a tough dick?
Dude, I totally agree with you. Totally. So I'm
And
trying
that's
to
funny
see
because
here.
I've met some midgets that I'm just like, whoa, bro, you need to chill.
Dude, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I don't see
I've never
anything
met
about
a
height.
person that I'm just like, listen here, buddy, you need to calm down.
Right. I mean, it's being somebody as tall as you are, you command a lot of respect just from your stature.
Right, but that's the thing. It's so weird to me, honestly, because I'm just like, so many people are like, I don't feel comfortable around you because you intimidate me. I'm
That's
just
it.
like, okay, would you say this to a midget?
Well, the midget wouldn't be able to manhandle them the same way that you would, and that's probably why they feel that way. And also, they're probably just insecure.
Right, But I get that so much. And I'm just like, what did I do? Well, you didn't do anything, but you're intimidating me.
I know,
By
dude.
what, existing?
They say that the only discrimination there really is against tall people.
Is existing.
Yeah, tall people existing.
I mean, think about it. If somebody walked up, you said you're what, 5'2"?
No. I'm about like 5'7", 5'8".
Okay, so you're 5'7", 5'8". I'm 6'8". If I walked up on you, you would instantly have to look up at me. And
Yeah.
regardless, let's say unmistakably I bumped into you, you'd be like, whoa, I'm a little intimidated, right? And even if I said, I'm sorry, my bad, I apologize, you would be like, I'm not comfortable anymore. This fucking giant just bumped into me. Kind of like Leia and Chewbacca. Just walking carpet out of my damn way.
Right. Well, I will tell you this. The only thing that makes me a little uncomfortable around tall people is when you have like a really good buddy who's tall. So I had, a few good buddies who were tall. And then one of my wife's cousins, he's like, what, 6'6", 6'7"? He's like 6'7". And when we get to family get-togethers, we'll come up to each other and we'll do that, like, what guy friends do, right? You'll pull each other in for like a little handshake hug. I don't like doing that with him because it's so emasculating, because I feel like I'm a child in a giant's arm. So I just like to stick with handshakes when it comes to really tall people. Because then if you give me like the bro hug, I then just feel like I'm a play doh. I don't like that.
Okay, well then I can explain to you this. Is that it's kind of weird when you hang out with tall people, right? Because the more you hang out with them, the less you notice how tall they are.
Yes, I agree.
Until they walk directly up on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
I
Because
get that all the time. People are like, shit, I've known you for years, but I never realized how tall you were until you stood right next to me.
yeah, dude, it's crazy. I have that sometimes too, with some of the taller people I know. I used to be really good friends with a couple guys who were like 6'4", 6'6", and we hung out a lot in high school. And I get exactly what you're saying. And then there will be times where, they're just like away from you, and then you see them coming, and you're like, holy shit, they're giants.
But it's so funny. Like, people ask me literally multiple times a day how tall I am, right? And they also ask me multiple times.
Do you play basketball?
Like, that plus this is the one that bothers me the most. Is they go, do you realize you're really tall? No, motherfucker, I just learned that today. Thank you for telling me.
And do they ask you how the weather is up there?
They used to, until I'm like, well, it's partially raining. And they're like, what? I'm like,
nice.
or I'm like, oh, there's some fog.
Right? Oh, man.
No, but my favorites are like, do you play basketball? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm a professional mini golfer. And on the side, I do some jockey work.
Oh, man, that's great. That's great.
And most, or when people go, how tall are you? I'm like, I'm 5'1.5". And they're like, oh, okay. And then they stop and pause.
What?
They're like, wait, what? Exactly.
That's
They're like,
funny.
no way. I'm like, you realize you're standing on a ditch, right? And they look down.
I can believe that. All right, man. Well, we've talked about many of things. It's been a good conversation. It really has been.
Great conversation, and I hope we can have many more to come. And
Yeah.
I really liked hanging out with you, and I want to say thank you, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I do these live streams every night, Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes I'll do a live stream during the day. It just really depends on how my schedule's going. But every day, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm here. So, all right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the show. Much love. Peace.
Much love, bro. Have a good night.
You too.